Hey YouTube, it's Emory, and welcome back to my first year on T. This week on my first year on T, we're talking about how I realized I was trans. Ever since I was born, I knew that there were things that made me different from girls my age, and my interests kind of fell into the more masculine category, which wouldn't necessarily mean that I'm trans, which I think is a big reason why it took me a long time to figure it out. My family didn't force me into being very feminine. I loved doing anything active. I liked being outside. I liked getting dirty and going in the creek and, doing fun stuff like that. And I wanted presents for Christmas that were I got a racetrack with cars that could go 90 miles an hour one year and stuff like that was just, it's stereotypically more masculine, but because my family didn't force me in any kind of box, it was just me. And so they weren't saying oh, you must be a boy or you must be gay or anything like that. They weren't trying to force anything on me, but it was just understood that that was the kind of stuff that I liked, and they didn't try to force anything on me. But they definitely suspected that I was gay. So then when I ended up starting to go through puberty, a really big issue for me was when I started growing a chest and when I got a period. And both of those times I cried over it. And my mom knew that I just didn't like growing up. Every time I would go graduate from a grade in school to go up to the next grade, I was always really upset because I wanted things to stay the way they were. So my mom always thought that I just didn't want to move on or grow up. And so going through puberty, she thought I didn't like it because I didn't want to be growing up, not because I didn't like the type of puberty I was having. So that was another sign that was just kind of missed altogether, and nobody, including me, knew that that's why that was. So when I grew a chest and that started happening, I couldn't figure out why I hated it so much, but I remember wanting to go get a bra right away because I wanted to hide what was under my shirt that didn't look like it used to. So I literally was trying to bind as a kid, and I had this one tank top and it was light purple and it had a flower little decal thingy across the front, but it was like a camisole type shirt, and it didn't have a shelf bra in it, but it had a thicker layer of fabric across the top part, and it was tighter, and so it flattened my very early chest out, and I loved that shirt because I didn't have to wear a bra, but it looked like I didn't have anything growing there. So I just remember doing things that would try to avoid looking like I was wearing a bra, but also look like I didn't have a chest for a really long time. And then when I got my period, I realized what it was and immediately went to my mom and cried and asked why it was happening to me, and can it stop? Can we make it stop some kind of way? And my mom was just no, you're just growing up. That's what happens to everyone your age. And it was never really a discussion about gender. It was just kind of you're growing up and that's what happens. And that I was gonna be okay. And I just was so upset and trying to figure out why it was happening to me. I didn't understand. I realized as I was getting older, I didn't like to wear any clothes. I hated all clothes on me. I just thought all clothes looked bad, and I couldn't figure out why. And I thought it was just because nothing really fit me right. And I was always super, super tall. I'm 5'11" now. And so as a kid, I was growing up way taller than everyone else. I was really tall and really skinny, and so I thought I just didn't like my body in the clothes that everybody else was wearing, but I didn't realize it was because they were girls' clothes. So that's another sign that I missed. When I got older, I was in high school, and I had come out as gay at that point, and so I was wearing more masculine clothing because I thought gay girls tended to wear more masculine clothes, and I was playing sports every season in high school, so I would wear usually just athletic clothing, kind of like what I'm wearing right now, but it made it easier for me because I didn't think I looked bad in athletic clothes. I enjoyed wearing them, and people thought I looked fine in them, so that was kind of a way to get around wearing the regular clothes that I hated wearing. And that kind of led me to realize that I was allowed to shop in the men's section for clothes. And so I was wearing sports bras and men's clothes all the time. And eventually I realized that my chest dysphoria was dysphoria. A couple years ago, I realized my chest dysphoria was actually like something that I could change. And so I got a very, very compressing sports bra, and I realized that that was like a thing. So I was like, okay, maybe I'm genderqueer, but I didn't like change my pronouns or anything. I just thought because I didn't like a part of my body and I felt like it was too feminine, that was like an issue. So I guess that was kind of the first, like, me realizing I was trans. That was the first sign that I really confirmed that was kind of a trans thing. And then over time, as I learned more words, like what it meant to be trans, what dysphoria was, what gender therapy was, that there was such a thing as hormone replacement therapy and all of that stuff. As I learned each of those things, I started to finally apply it to myself. And then by March 31st of last year, which is almost exactly a year ago this week, on Trans Visibility Day, I came out online and I said, here's my new name and here are my pronouns and here's what it means to be trans-masculine, non-binary. And so that's when I came out. So it was kind of not a shocking, like, oh my god, I'm trans moment, but I guess over time, each little thing that bothered me about myself just ended up adding up, and I realized that I didn't like clothes as a kid because I had curves and I had a chest and I thought they looked bad in my clothes because I shouldn't have had that body. And so just things, more education was being found and I was adding things together that I wasn't before, and I guess one day I just kind of was like, oh, that's what it is. And I guess for me it was kind of hard to admit to myself because I really liked the experience of women because I lived that experience. I lived as a person who was assigned female at birth and presented femininely and kind of enough to be treated the way that women are treated, and people assumed that I was a woman, and so I went through those struggles, and I think I identified with that struggle because I had it, and then being queer, I also had that struggle, so it felt weird letting go of some of my identities when I was realizing I was trans, and so it took me a long time to admit to myself that that's what it was, and that I can let those things go and move forward and be myself in these new identities, and I can educate people about what it's like to be perceived as female for a lot of my life and then perceived sometimes as male for some of my life. Realizing that I could use my experience for good and help other people and be more myself was helpful for me to admit to myself that I was trans. So yeah, that's how I realized I was trans. If anybody has any questions about my personal journey and into being who I am, I'd love to answer any questions about how to figure out that you're trans maybe, or thinking about what that means for you. I want to see those questions down below because I really want to talk to you guys. I hardly get any comments other than like, great video, loved it kind of thing. So I really want to get some questions and talk about those in future videos, so leave that down below. If you liked this video and hearing how I found out I was trans, please click the like button and subscribe to see every other guy's response to this question on the channel. And I'll see you guys next Friday. Okay, bye.